Hi there everyone, my name's Dave West. I hope we're all doing well. So welcome to this short video then showing you the cinematic mode on the new iPhone 13. So cinematic mode is essentially like portrait mode video taken to the next level. So what Apple calls it is the ability to use what's known in the industry as rack focus. So you can change focus between a foreground subject and someone in the background. And it uses really clever algorithms like eye tracking. So when you've got two people stood behind each other, as the camera tracks the eyes, they will shift between the two subjects. Now, one thing to bear in mind is this thing is still in its infancy, and I'm sure this will be built upon as time goes on. And one other thing to mention is it only records at 1080p at 30 frames per second for the time being. Now, one other thing to mention as well is it seems to record in HDR mode to give you possibly the best image quality available and the best bandwidth. But as you can see, you've got this super aggressive background blur behind me, keeping this nice sharp focus on me. Now you can see it's not quite perfect. The top of my nut by ear, you can see is slightly out of focus. If I bring the camera a little bit closer, you can see, I don't know, it looks kind of weird to me. I suppose it's because I'm used to recording the video like normally, and I'm just using this mode now, and it's like the separation, it looks almost kind of artificial. But again, Apple will probably build on this and make some changes and improvements as time goes on. But this is the front-facing camera, and you still get the great image stabilization at the same time as well as this cinematic video. But I think with some time this could be really, really good. But as it is, it's pretty decent. And I will show you the rear camera now and show you how it works with that. All right, so moving around to the rear camera then. So one thing to mention is this is only available on the main rear camera. And again, it records at 1080p at 30 frames per second. So I'm just concentrating on these plants in front of me, and you can see the effect is still not quite perfect. You do get a nice interesting kind of depth of field effect between the branches, as you can see here, but it is kind of struggling to maintain focus. Now I know it's not meant for things like this. The reason I wanted to start like this is if I just tap on this horse, you'll see that it will smoothly move the focus between the two subjects. Now if I stay on the horse and keep moving, as you can see, as I get closer to the horse, you see the background is nice and blurred. Now occasionally it does get a little bit confused. You can see you get a nice sort of natural roll off between the subject and the background. It still looks a bit sort of cutty-outy, if you know what I mean. Although the image sharpness is really quite nice. And on the screen here I can see the software analysing the subject, so the yellow box gets wider and smaller as it detects different objects within the frame. And if I move around, see it does a pretty good job of separating the subject from the background. And as the horse is moving, the little yellow squares are going crazy on the screen in front of me just to keep focus on the horse. And if I move away and then I concentrate on something else, and it keeps focus on that. So I'm just going to try something very quickly. So if I hold my hand here, you can see, and then as I move away, it will put the priority on the horse. See, there's like this weird hazy effect, like a dreamlike effect around subjects. But it does a pretty good job of making pretty quick changes to the subject and the background. Now if I introduce something else into the frame, and track around, it then goes to the horse. If I bring the phone into the frame, it does the same, and then back and forth. So it's just to give you a little demonstration of how all of this works. I think it's pretty neat, and it'd be good to see this included in extra resolutions as time goes on. I'd imagine the phones are a lot of processing power here to get this effect working. It's essentially taking 30 portrait shots a second in order to achieve this and then turning it into a video. this is a pretty good demo of it because you've got a nice soft background with a bit of light behind it, so looking pretty good. Alright, so this is just to show a demonstration of how the cinematic function works with the front-facing camera. So you can see this horse behind me here. You can see this little box around me, which is recognizing me as a subject. And you can see the little white box sometimes turns into a rectangle. If I push on the horse behind me, you can see it then does this rack focus effect, and you can just go in between the two subjects at will. It's not quite perfect. Sometimes the cutout effect doesn't look quite right. It kind of looks like I've been superimposed into the video a little bit now and again. But nonetheless, it's a really promising feature, which I think could be really, really good over time. And there's loads of different uses for it. You can be as creative as you like, really, in terms of video with lots of different subjects on tables, for example, if you want to do that kind of video and switch the focus between all of them. But because of the effect, you can see I'm blurred out, but it's kind of like I kind of look a bit detached, so I think it needs a little bit of work, but this gives you an idea of how it looks.